Good day. It's August 29th, 2018, and I'm going to squeeze out one more video here before I depart this room. In the past, I've tried and thought I was able to make one point in each of these videos that was from an angle or an enlargement of what is commonly looked at, so that these videos would have something of great importance to educate you about the world we live in. Or so I thought. In this video I've been thinking and looking and hearing from some comments that I haven't really done this, and maybe that's true. So I'm going to re-look at something one more time and try to expose it or get the point into you more so about this, and it's currency, money, exchange, trade, Big Brother, or the man, or the guy who controls the money pool, central bankers. I'm not calling them evil, I'm not calling them enemy, but it seems that they've been treating the general population as the enemy, and that's what I'm trying to bring out in this video, is that through their media and through their talk and through their cheap talk, through their schools, they've been able to pull the wool over your eyes. They've been able to make you think that there's other bad guys out there that you should be more concerned with. They've been pointing the finger at other people and getting you people to fight amongst yourselves, racist issues, feminine issues, political issues, and basically they've had both sides fixed or under them. More and more of you are becoming aware of that, but still you don't get the gravity of it all. Anyway, I'm going to start off with an example of somebody I knew and have known for quite a while. And back, 2013, 2014, somewhere around there, we were talking about putting what little money we had into other things. And last year I could kick myself for not doing it, because I came so close to putting some money in Bitcoins, but and I did this twice, once when it was like $45 a Bitcoin, and even another time when it was 600. And both times, well, it was 3% of that you had to put in to get it. And it was still a big gamble. I mean, there was ways, and people have lost everything. It's a big gamble. Anyway, this person, this woman, did. And last year, when Bitcoin had gotten up to $19,000 a Bitcoin, she bought a brand new car and a brand new house. Nice house. Now the IRS is coming after her and wants her to pay over $100,000 to them, which she doesn't have. So she may lose her house, and who knows, maybe her car. if she doesn't come up with this $100,000 plus. So it reminds me of when I lost everything to the IRS, because they said I didn't give them a third of what I took in, and I tried to tell them and show them that I had plowed everything back into my own business the first few years and well into the current year that they were talking about. Now, I'd never gotten any seed money from the government, never any money from the IRS. I just put my pennies together and put everything into doing that, and it was a gamble. I mean, the world out there is one big gamble, and I had no guarantees behind me. So when I finally start making money, the IRS comes along and says a third of us, that's ours, which is mathematically impossible. You can't, unless you're really into some dark stuff, you really can't mathematically you don't have the money, a third of what you've taken in, to pay somebody. And this somebody is basically a mafia. It's IRS is a mafia. I can see the IRS coming after people who have gotten money from the government to do what they're doing, and has borrowed money from the mafia, and the mafia comes along and says, give us our fair share, which is usually more than what you've gotten out of it, or at least what you spent. Their fair share is usually more than your share. But the way it was explained to me is, since I was in a commercial enterprise, crossing state lines, doing business with another state, and using their dollar, their currency, that this was basically theirs, and if I didn't give them their fair share, they were going to take it all. So, you get what I'm meaning? If you trade coconuts, use coconuts as a means of exchange, or petrodollars, which really aren't petrodollars, they're just air dollars, they're IOUs, central bank IOUs, so they're really nothing. There's no asset behind them. So if you're using their funny money, their funny currency, in a sense, they do have a right to take it all. And that's the Luciferian concept. We told you the truth one time, that, that the Federal Reserve note is a debt certificate created in 1913. And just because we're so big, we can enforce it. And so this woman who had bitcoins, which was outside the system, had traded them in for dollars and bought this house with dollars. It's the mafia's dollars, the IRS's dollars, the central bankers' dollars. So when I'm talking about people who are using children, drugs, legal and illegal, and weapons as an asset of trade, and trying to point this out, I'm not saying that they're good. I'm trying to educate you all out there that they're outside the system because they're trading in assets, true assets. They're not trading in funny money. The Federal Reserve debt certificate note. And since they're not, they're outside the system. They're above the codes, the admiralty codes of trade, of what more people trade in. And so this brings in some of my videos on the difference between admiralty codes, which is the law of the sea, and the law of the land, which was the Constitution up until the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, which was brought in due to the Civil War in this country back in the 1860s, we were moved into a corporation. We were moved into admiralty rulership, the corporation. Now, admiralty rule is the admiralty the codes of the sea, and this extends from way back from when trading over the seas was hazardous and you could lose everything. So these insurance companies were developed, and so everything was insured so that the big people having these ships and the cargo didn't lose out. And that's basically what admiralty codes are. And that's what the old buccaneer days between the pirate ships and the current admiralty rulers, Spain, and then France a little bit, and then eventually Great Britain, came to be the power that control the admiralty that rules of the sea. And today, shipping is not as hazardous unless you don't pay off the right guy and you're boarded or something, or like with the Titanic, you're scuttled because of insurance payout. These days, most all that is fixed. It's not natural laws that the ocean just simply, the storm came up and took the cargo. That's a deep subject, and there's plenty of stuff on the internet that if you really want to learn about the difference between admiralty codes and the laws of the land, which come down to us from common law, which come down to us from the biblical laws. And these are not just Christian laws, they're laws of the Muslims and all the different religious orders that have been in existence throughout time. Those are all more laws extending from our Creator, and they're land-based. So let's see, let's get back to exchange, trades. The elites and the powers above the common man are trading in assets, real assets. They're not doing it with gold and silver anymore because some of these elites have taken over the market, and you don't see gold and silver going anywhere since it was up at $1,900 and dropped down to $1,200. So it's a controlled market. So it's, in a sense, not a usable currency item of trade anymore. And neither is Bitcoin at the moment, but it's not as controlled as much as precious metals, but it is more controlled than when it was up at $19,000. Now, you have the Chinese and the Russians primarily talking for a number of years with a new monetary system, which is Brazil and India thrown in on that, and a few other countries. It's a toss-up what's going to really happen, but at least in China, it's a half-half split where a lot of the people in China are siding with the central bankers because they realize it's a racket and that they can make more money under the central banking system that we currently have. It's under Admiralty law, or Admiralty rule, or Admiralty codes. And that rule is enforced by guns, and it has been enforced by the US military. As an example with Gaddafi, Hussein, Syria, and Iran, wanting to use precious metals or some other asset other than the promise to pay petrodollar, the Federal Reserve note. Have I lost you? That's basically it. In addition, this is part of it, you may not realize it, but people coming into this country and other countries from the migrants from the war areas and from the deprived third world countries that have been basically colonized by the Admiralty rulers. They're welcomed by the elite into this country so that they can be numbered, so they can receive the mark of the beast, so they can get licensed, and therefore part of the system, so that the debts can be laid upon more people than what the U.S. population is. Because the debt, the overall debt, can be extended more and more by the more and more slaves, the more and more 14th Amendment citizens that you have in this country. So this is one reason illegal aliens that are not registered yet, not received their two-dimensional paperwork, why they're allowed or perceived by so many people to get away with breaking laws, because they don't come under Admiralty rules, because they're foreign, they're truly foreign entities to the City of London, to the Federal Reserve, the Federal Reserve note, debt certificate. They're foreign to that until they've been given a number, a mark of the beast. So all you people out there saying, well, this illegal alien's getting away with murder and is not being accountable to the law, to the Admiralty law, they don't understand that the reason they're getting away with that is because they're not a part of the system, the number system, the debt system, any more so than the high elite that are trading in children, weapons, and drugs and other things. Am I making this point? I mean, this is really a big look that is not being grasped enough at this point, and it's so crucial because it's what it's all about. So we're really at a turning point right now. Some people think that it's just a matter of months before this is all recognized and dealt with, thanks to the Chinese and Russians and the people who are banging the drums about common law and law of the land, and trying to expose Admiralty codes and the rulership, and even the U.S. military. It's up they're confused. They don't know which way to go. Most of the ones that were supporting what I was saying were bumped out of the military under Obama. So I don't know where it stands right now. But what I just tried to point out to you, and in addition, when in court, when you're able to prove that you're expatriated yourself from the 14th Amendment citizenship, you in a sense have gotten back your power of attorney. And this is a crucial thing. This is how I won in court, by showing the court that I had not given up my power of attorney. So the judge, and this was back in 1999, threw out everything that had been the prosecution had brought against me, and stated so that I hadn't given up my power of attorney. Of course, these things are not on the books anymore. I've checked with the county, and all that just seems to have disappeared. The case number is there, and it's listed that I was dismissed, but the reason is no longer in there. And my papers that I'd filed that showed that I had expatriated as a 14th Amendment citizen, there was no record of them. So these records that are supposed to be maintained in our courthouses over the years the good stuff has been filtered out. And so the system supporters, the empire supporters, the admiralty enforcers can come along and say, see, you're just like all the rest of us, except the elite, of course. I hope that exposed this for what it is, and I hope you all strive to educate yourself more on the difference between the tree of good and life and the tree of good and evil and the tree of life. See, that's what I was trying to say in my 4 states of being, that you have good and evil, or you have good guy, bad guy, and then on the other side you have the truth seekers and the Luciferians. You've got those 4 entities, and I know this is confusing, but maybe it's giving you the last light to those few that are waking up. You have the tree of life, and then you have the tree of good and evil. And in that good and evil, the good guy, bad guy, the bad guys are saying, we are the good guys, and the good guys are confused, and anyway, it's a mess. That's why I'm saying the natural laws, the universal laws, are the ones that you should be striving to keep to, which the laws of the land, the 10 rights in the beginning of the Constitution are the basics for it. The 13th and 14th. Well, we got off track on the 10th Amendment, the states' rights. That last little piece, the and or, is confused today, and people think they get the word and or mixed up. They don't realize the legal difference between and or, and that's when the power of the state came in, and the people gave up their individual liberties, the man and woman status, and later, well, and then that 10th part took up the state, which was small at that time, but became overpowering under the 14th Amendment. And the 13th Amendment that we have now is not the original. If you want to learn more, the original 13th was kind of ousted back. That's what the War of 1812 was all about, where lawyers were not allowed to work in government because lawyers were under the City of London, which was Admiralty, and the constitutional founding fathers knew that, and that's why they later brought out the 13th Amendment, and of course the 13th was hidden, and then during the Civil War it was brought out, the new 13th Amendment, which was nothing like the original 13th, and then you had the 14th Amendment, which cemented it, and the further cement was in 1913, when the Federal Reserve Act was snuck in the day before Christmas Eve, when nobody was there to vote on it except for the guys that had been paid off to vote on it. And there was a big deal made at that time, but the people that were against all that didn't get the word out, or were covered up by the media even in those days. And so I hope that gives you a little more picture of what this video is all about. Thank you, and have a good future.